Hello, you're watching BTVA's Business Nigeria, and I am TUNJI Andrews. Today on the show, we'll be taking a preview and review of the markets. We'll first look at Friday, where we saw a mild gain of 0.5% after days of consecutive losses. Joining me in the studio to discuss this is AYODEJI. He's the head of investment research at AFRINVEST West Africa Limited. AYODEJI, welcome to the show. And we're going to start from the banking sector area. We've been seeing a lot of fines as concerns the TSA. We first saw FBN being fined 1.9 billion, UBA 2.9 billion, but recently we saw Skybank get just about 4 billion. First of all, we've seen it being, the fine was 5% on the previous banks. Skybank was 10%. Why exactly was that?
Yes, we want to let me first state that it's maybe the regulators have begun to up their game in terms of trying to sanction banks that
have been airing as concerned the TSA.
That does not comply with the regulation just generally, and especially this TSA. Maybe based on the body language of the president, and they are trying to also align themselves to what the focus of the president. So straight to looking at 10% on for Skybank.
How is that affecting the markets? As the banking subsector, maybe?
Yes, first thing, before you may even want to look at in terms of the fundamentals of how does it affect either the bottom line of the bank. Investors will be wary of corporate governance within the banking space. So it means within the space of 3 weeks, 3 banks have been slammed, fined for concealing deposits that should have been sent to...
Supposedly declared.
Yeah, declared or sent to the CBN in line with the TSA. So what it will dampen, first of all, it will dampen investors' confidence in terms of stocks within the banking space. So even banks that have complied will also suffer from that sentiment.
Why investors start to look at the other banks?
When you observe what you see today within the banking space, you see a lot of the stocks that we expect that investors should take position based on the significant price drop we observed in the past 3 weeks. Most of them also suffered further decline today.
Still looking at the markets, from last week, we saw some significant rally as concerns Owando. I didn't get it. People have said it's bargain hunting. To me, it looks like a bull trap. Is there any fundamental driving Owando's rise? We know that they've reduced some of their debt, about $100 million, but is that significant for the rally that we're seeing?
I think the right word that you have used is a bull trap. Why? Because currently, I don't think investors will forget so quick just the way they've handled the significant loss that they recorded in full year 2014. So and based on the Q3 2015 results, they're still in a negative position, was even worse than the H1 2015.
Yeah, that's true.
So when you want to do your projection in terms of what should you expect in full year 2015, you should still expect that they will still be in a loss position, but based on management guidance that they will move to a positive position in full year 2016. So I don't expect any rational investor would want to bet on that within the short term.
So
if you are taking a long-term 2 years position, if you are taking me, if you are taking a long-term position, fine. But if you are just taking a short-term position, you need to be very careful. You need to be cautious.
Looking
so for
at
me,
more fundamentals.
For us, we've placed it under review.
Looking at review, talking about review, the liquidity in the markets we've seen recently has been alarming. Rates are dropping like lead attached to it and dropped in water. We're seeing fixed deposit rates going down, bond rates going down, T-bills rates going down, and there's so much liquidity in the market. But around that, the MPC is coming very soon. Do you think that the MPC would be tempted to want to reduce the official lending rate? That's the MPR.
I don't think, in our view, we don't think the CBN would want to reduce the MPR for now. And when you also want to look at the reason why we feel the CBN has decided to leave the liquidity level this high, would be, we feel it's a deliberate act to see if the banks would increase lending to the risk space.
But are they lending, though?
Yes, based on the risk that you can still pervade the real sector, we don't expect to see significant lending. But we expect that for some of them, in terms of this significant decline in yields within the shorter end of the curve, you expect some of them to reconsider some of the credits that perhaps might be perceived very risky, to reconsider them, reassess them, and try to channel funds to some of those credits.
So basically, we're calling
to cover up for the decline in yields that you've seen basically at the shorter end of the curve.
So we're calling that now. You said you do not believe that the MPC will reduce the MPR. Also, I want to call your rate on inflation trajectory. Inflation rate for October, what do you think is going to come in at?
We expect it to would continue to move on the upward trend, 9.5%, which basically will be due to the rise in food products. We've also seen in terms of imported goods, especially most of the items that have been banned from participating at the interbank markets. Most of them have been sourcing for dollar within the parallel market, and we expect that this increase in cost will be passed to the final consumer, which will impact on food,
inflation.
On inflation.
So that's on one hand. Q3 GDP numbers are also coming out soon. Q2 GDP numbers came in at 2.3 thereabouts. What do you think Q3 GDP numbers are going to be like?
We expect that there will be a slight improvement based on our projection for Q3. 3.5%.
3.5%. That is actually very ambitious.
Well, when you look at some of the reasons why the significant decline recorded in Q2, when you observe it was during this the height of the politics.
Yeah, that's true.
If you also recall, there was the period where I think the strike that led to production scarcity was also part of what compounded the issue. So we've not seen that in Q3. In terms of power, it has improved slightly in Q3. And when you look at the cost or the overhead of most of the complaints, power is a significant part of it. So we expect that there will also be like a savings from that part, which would also be diverted in boosting production.
Before you go, though, I need to ask, what are your buys, AFRINVEST, for this week? What are you looking at? What is on your radar in terms of equities?
Yes, in terms of, based on the banking space, we're looking at Access Bank.
Access Bank.
When, in terms of its Q3 results, was able to post significant positive 44% in PAT year-on-year. Also, looking at technical analysis also shows that RSI is showing around 31, which shows it's really trading at the oversold region. So we expect even for short-term traders to also take position in those stocks. In terms of price to book, currently trading around 0.4 times, which also present opportunities. So we also recommend GT Bank. It's been consistent over the years in terms of corporate governance. People have positive sentiment regarding GT Bank, so we expect that current position, current price present opportunities for investors, especially for medium to long-term investors to take position in the stock. And looking at even the consumer goods space, Nestle, which you see has been very resilient in terms of its profits, bottom line. And we expect that, though people may see it as pricey, but in terms of when you look at based on year-on-year growth and its consistency, they've always been up to the task.
So thank you very much, AYODEJI Ebo. He's given us his predictions. We have here inflation. He predicts that it'll come in at 9.5%. He believes that the MPR is going to keep, the MPC is going to keep MPR at 13%. GDP for Q3, he says 3.5%. And what is on his radar? Access Bank, GT Bank, and Nestle. Thank you very much, AYODEJI Ebo, for being with us on the show. Thank you very much. Keep watching Business Nigeria. We will be back tomorrow when we bring you economic updates. Till then, keep doing business, Nigeria.